with a fighter, Conor Benn, that if he brings himself into disrepute for a failed drugs test, that you wouldn't be able to drop him as a promoter?
No, and the contract. If you let me,
let me just qualify a bit further, right? So if you haven't got that contract, which basically means that most people with a sensible outlook would have a contract with somebody that if they bring themselves and the sport into disrepute and can't be fit for purpose, they would then be able to jettison that contract. Given the fact that you are a walking embodiment of all things VADA, right? Everything's VADA for you. You pulled Pascal fight with Buatsi because of VADA.
No, I didn't.
Demetrius Andrade.
Well,
let me go through the list of let me go through the VADA ones.
Demetrius Andrade.
Buatsi because of VADA.
No, I didn't.
Demetrius Andrade. Well, let me go through the list of let me go through the VADA ones.
Demetrius Andrade is the best option. Go through that one because you really don't know what you're talking about.
We'll also go through the Joel Miller one.
Go back to Demetrius Andrade.
Okay,
because that's important.
Billy Joe Saunders,
not my fighter,
not your fighter, gets dealt with on the basis of VADA tests that were failing him for a drug in Massachusetts that wasn't a drug that would needed to be failed in this country for an out of competition position.
Absolutely irrelevant. You do realise what you said.
Relevant.
Okay, I've got Demetrius Andrade.
Yep.
Frank Warren has got Billy Joe Saunders, who fails a VADA test. Okay, the British Boxing Board of Control write to me and say, we appreciate that Billy Joe, so without looking into the substance, without looking into the out of competition existence, and say to us, we do not acknowledge in any condition VADA testing, only UCAD testing. Now, let me answer your point.
That's not true, is it?
Yes, it absolutely
no,
is.
it's not true.
Well, hold on. How can it not be true?
But it's not true.
When the British Boxing Board of Control have confirmed that in writing.
Am I wrong? Am I wrong to suggest, right, that a VADA test or any private laboratory test that is sanctioned or under the accreditation of WADA, then, if it brings an adverse finding, gets then brought into the realms of UCAD?
No, you're wrong.
I'm wrong, am I?
You're wrong because it's in writing from the British Boxing Board of Control.
I'm wrong under the auspice of what you say, but everyone else in the industry doesn't think that.
This is where you fail to understand
your version of
the
it.
regulatory procedure of the sport. When you go back to the contracts state, and all contracts, under the sanction of the British Boxing Board of Control, we do not govern the sport. Despite you thinking, and many people thinking, we are boxing.
No, I don't.
No.
No, you think that.
No,
I don't think that.
No, Simon. The board govern the sport.
No, I don't think that.
Let me finish.
But I don't think that.
Okay, let me finish. No, but you don't have to think that. That's fact. The board govern the sport. They are the regulatory body. They are the disciplinary body.
Correct.
All matters regarding sanction of a fight rely on the British Boxing Board of Control. Contractually, in the instance of this, we have two things we have to consider. Number one is, if the bout is sanctioned by the British Boxing Board of Control.
Right.
If it's not, the fight contractually cannot proceed. Regarding the private testing between the two parties, the board cannot sanction the fight. Chris Eubank can terminate the contract. Chris Eubank chose to not terminate the contract. The board, who were made aware of the testing results
on the 23rd of August.
No, right? On the same time as us.
Yeah, 23rd of August.
Okay, for the out of contract testing.
Yeah. You had a VADA test on the 23rd of July, right? And you enrolled in me because you made a big noise about it yesterday. You made a big noise about Matchroom put the money up, and Conor Benn put the money up to enrol him in a voluntary scheme. But it ain't voluntary, is it? It's a mandatory test as a result of wanting to be ranked inside the top 15 of the WBC.
No, but again, you're wrong. There's no cost of affiliating yourself with that.
You're the one that said it, mate.
No, I didn't.
You turned around and said
we pay for private testing above and beyond.
You're the one that said it yesterday.
Layer.
You made a big noise because when you were on your little soapbox talking about how the world should be, you represented it the way you want it to. So the 23rd of July, a VADA test was commissioned on the basis of Conor Benn being inside the WBC top 15, not a voluntary test, a mandatory test as a result of that particular prerequisite.
You have to voluntarily enrol.
But it's mandatory to have it if you want to be inside the top 15 of the WBC.
You have to voluntarily enrol.
But you
Is
have
that
to,
true, though?
Yeah, of course.
But it's mandatory to be inside the top 15.
But it's mandatory.
If you want to enrol, it's completely voluntary.
But it's mandatory if you want to be inside the top 15.
If you want to be, it's up to you to voluntarily enrol.
I mean, so here we are. You announce a fight there on afterwards, which you announce on August the 9th, pending a test result, which is not relational to... Hang on. Relational to the fight. You get the results back on the 23rd of August, right? Who knew on the 23rd of August? You?
The British Boxing Board of Control.
I never did. Who else?
The WBC.
Who else?
That's again, Simon, under the WBC testing program. Listen, let me speak. It's the confidential procedure, right? That has nothing to do with us. Under That is the people made aware of that test.
Did you tell Wasserman's?
No, because
Why not?
because one, it was not in their jurisdiction of testing. Two,
But you made a fight, Eddie.
but
you
the fight was already made.
Hang on, you'd signed a fight. Now you've got an adverse test finding.
That's it.
And you didn't tell Wasserman's.
Yeah, because it's
So when did
confidential.
Chris Eubank know?
It's confidential under the WBC program. This is what I don't understand. The British Boxing Board of Control knew about the test.
Yeah.
The same time. Just let me finish.
And what did you lot do?
No, but let me
Hang on,
finish.
hang on,
Let me
Simon.
finish. Right? And from there, you don't ask the question.
I did.
No, you didn't.
Yes,
I
I
saw
did.
your interview.
No, you didn't.
It was so flaky.
No, you didn't.
You
No,
go.
you didn't.
It was so flaky
I listened to-
because you take your jibes at me, and then when you
No,
get
no,
the
no, no.
opportunity,
No.
with the governing body
I
who
saw
knew
that.
about it,
I saw that
the
rubbish.
same time.
I saw that rubbish.
The same time as me.
I saw that bait and switch what you said the other day, because basically you said he didn't even ask the first question I asked.
Not really.
hang
Not
on,
in your normal way.
Absolutely. The first question, because I know you've got this little conspiracy thing going on in your little mind. The bottom line is the first thing that went on, and I asked Robert Smith is, why haven't you? How comes you lot? How's this sport run? Is it the promoters at the top? The fighters second, the media third, and you lot at the very bottom. How does it work that you lot have gotten pushed around by that Herbert Eddie Hearn? How have you got yourself
Again,
into a situation?
that's your world. That's
Right.
your world.
So
Contractually, and during the process,
So then I asked
we
Robert
go
Smith,
to the ball
and you
regarding
heard him,
sanctions.
right?
Go on, finish it,
and you
Simon.
heard him turn around and say, I said, did you get served something vaguely resembling a cease and desist from Conor Benn's lawyers about wallop? Hang on a second, there's an adverse test finding, you get back in your boxes. And the answer was, yeah, you could say that. So I said to him, hang on a second, how have you not... You got pushed around by these guys. You're the British Boxing Board of no control.
The
No,
board
they have fined him.
have made it clear with precedents that they do not acknowledge VADA testing. This is the whole issue around their rules. They only acknowledge...
They acknowledge adverse...
No,
yes,
no,
they do,
no, they
Eddie.
don't.
Yes,
Simon,
they do.
you're not
Well,
aware of...
Well,
we had
te-
the whole
well,
situation
well,
with
I
Billy
tell
Joe
you what,
Saunders.
Tell you what, the British Boxing Board of Control...
Yeah, who now say, we need to look at our rules.
Because you've already told them and said they're liars, right?
Oh, I didn't say they're
yes,
liars.
You did. You
But
said it
when?
was a bull the other day.
A what?
You said it was a bullshit the other day.
No, I didn't. I
Yes,
said,
yes,
I
you
said,
did.
I
Yes,
said,
you
as
did.
what
You
I've
said
said
it.
the whole time, they took... The whole
Eddie,
thing
you
on
said
this...
it.
Simon, the whole thing on this
No, you said
is
that,
an
right?
attack on us,
No, it's
rather
not.
than the British Boxing Board of Control,
No, it's
who
not.
you had sitting next to you,
No, it's
right?
not.
Who took 5 weeks to make a decision. We get a situation
why?
like this because they didn't know what to
you
do,
lot,
and they made the right
and
decision.
And your fighter
Absolutely not.
issued
Nothing
cease and
to do.
desist,
No,
right?
no, we
and
didn't.
used a lot
no,
of
we
pressure.
didn't. No,
And
we
the
didn't.
whole structure...
You say
Hang on,
what you wanna
guys.
say.
We're not going to hear if you
problem-
both keep talking over each
because
other.
the problem with you is this is what you do. You speak to Robert Smith without. It's like Eddie Hearn did this. This is a situation. They were made aware at the same time, right? Wait.
Agreed.
Okay. Wait.
Agreed.
Wait.
I
Stop.
mean, Simon, you're hypothesizing here.
No.
You
But
know,
Simon,
I think it's
Eddie-
reasonable.
Eddie
I think
wants-
it's
Simon,
reasonable supposition.
Simon, I'll put it to you the same way again. In my situation, and I stand by this, and you can say, no, I would have done this, you would have done the same thing. You speak to the governing body, maybe back in the day it was the FA, and you say, you are designed to handle this situation. You're the regulatory body, you're the disciplinary committee, take away your player contracts, which might be different in football, and now we say it's up to the FA to make their decision. Just like us, the way a fight proceeds...
But they've got legislative powers, Eddie. This one hasn't. This one's funded by you lot.
No.
It's funded by you
It's got
lot.
the decision to sanction a fight or not. What are you talking
on
about?
the basis...
No. On the basis
of information,
No,
which no one will provide
on the
to them.
basis of... You're saying to me, right? Oh, how can you proceed with 2 failed tests? No. Why don't you ask the board
and I
how
have
they
done.
can... No, you haven't.
Yeah, I have.
You flitted
I
around it.
have.
The
No, I
reality
didn't.
is,
You
we
start-
get
you
the
start- you
stress.
started this
We get the
conversation.
stress. The
Well, you're a
the
big boy.
board...
That's
The
what you get
board...
paid
I
for.
don't care about stress.
As we
but
go
I
to
want
a-
to be acknowledged. The board make the decision.
Eddie,
They
as we
regard
go to
sanction
a
of the
break,
event.
I want you to answer this straight, Eddie. Can you in any way be proud of yourself in the way this entire affair was handled, particularly in fight week?
You've asked that question as well, and I've responded before. I think I made mistakes on a Wednesday. During this process, we let, and I keep going on about it, contractually, everything that we did was done with care and thought. I think nobody particularly handled the situation well, but I will say once again, when these tests come through, our governing body, we had conversations with them, and the conversations went something like this. Robert, I know you don't acknowledge VADA. We've been here before, but basically, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And 5 weeks later, they pulled the fight. Now, the other people say about my mistake of backing Conor Benn. I say this, I believe Conor Benn. There has been no benefit to me from a profile way or from a perceived integrity position to back Conor Benn. It would have been so easy for me just to cast him aside and say, well, I'm not sure about. I believe the young man. And I've stood.
Do you
by
believe him still?
100%.
Still?
100%. I've sat with him. I've sat with his family. And by the way, no one can criticise me for that. Because let me tell you, it would have been so easy.
But you
wait,
know,
hang on, Simon.
Just
hang on.
wait. You're the only person who loves the sound of his own voice more than me.
I don't know about that.
Right, it's true. But what I'm saying, Simon, is I've chosen to back this young man. I've taken flack. I've taken criticism. People have told me, don't do it. Distance yourself from it.
Is that because you can't get out of it now?
No. Mate, it would be easy for me to get out of it. I've done it because I believe in Jim. I've done it because I believe in the young man.
Did you want Conor to speak to Piers Morgan and talk TV?
No, I've not given Conor Benn.
Did you know he was going to do that?
Yes, I was made aware on the day that it was coming out.
The day?
Yep. I've not given Conor Benn one piece of advice from a media perspective, from a legal perspective, or anything. One thing I stand by is I've had this young kid in my office 3 dozen times. I've had his dad in my office. I've had Tony Sims in his office, and I believe him.
We are still talking about Conor Benn, the failed drugs test, which brought an end to any prospect of him getting in the ring with Chris Eubank Jr. We know what happened after that. Eubank Jr. went in against Liam Smith and was soundly beaten. David is trying to tell me Simon's got Eddie in trouble here. Eddie's legs are wobbling. Simon's hitting with snippy, snappy verbal jabs. Do you feel as if you're in trouble, Mr. Hearn?
Really? I mean, I wish you would have kept the conversation going off there as well. We haven't stopped, but I'm enjoying it, and
You're getting very personal with each other off here, I've got to say.
Not really.
Not
personal. I mean, I don't agree with a lot of what he's saying.
No, but
ultimately,
he's saying silly things, right? What he believes is that if someone puts him on the spot and asks a pointed question and doesn't let it go, and then dissects his answer and disseminates the information, that's somehow controversial.
No, what I said to you was, you've got 3 or 4 things factually incorrect, which you completely failed to acknowledge.
I don't
because
accept
in your world, you run boxing, you are the governing body. No. You are the British Boxing Board of Control.
Not at all. That's
I work in this sport every single day. I wouldn't come to you and say, ultimately, this is how mobile phones work, or this is how Crystal Palace works. That's your field.
Absolutely.
My field is I do this every single day.
You underestimate.
You're coming out with facts that you think
common sense involved in all businesses, Eddie. I know.
Common sense when it's a regulatory.
There's common sense.
There's one listener saying, "Listen, guys, I'm loving this, but when they both talk at the same time, we can't hear."
If you've got strong personalities, you're going to talk at the same time.
What I want to do is put this to you, Eddie, just to confirm: you cannot pull a fight which involved drug boxers without the board doing so. Is that right? So as a promoter, you can be promoting a fight against your will with doped fighters.
You wouldn't be against your, ultimately, contractually, the board make a decision whether they sanction the fight.
Yeah, but you have the relationship with the fighter.
Simon, you're completely disregarding the contractual issue of the only way that fight could be pulled.
You'd have to promote it, do you?
Of course I've got an obligation. I've got a POS with a fighter to promote that fight. I can't breach that agreement if the British Boxing Board of Control
let me ask you
the
the question. If you've got a fighter, and I will ask it again because I don't know why this seems to have evaded you, but you've got a fighter that's signed to you that will have a condition, I'm assuming, that if he brings himself into disrepute or you into disrepute alongside it, right, that you will have a right to step away. You don't have that.
Because that right of disrepute is under the regulatory arm of the British Boxing Board of Control. Let me finish.
Yeah.
If a fighter fails to be sanctioned by the British Boxing Board of Control, we will have a clause within the agreement to individually terminate that agreement. It's all done.
You had a moral choice.
We didn't. We had no moral choice. We had a legal choice.
Right.
The British Boxing Board of Control will decide whether the fight is going to be sanctioned.
You're positioning this, even though you continued with this with a second failed test on the 23rd of September.
We didn't continue. We waited for the board to make their decision.
And you know full well, and you do know full well, that the board were put in a position, and I'm not here to defend the board because I'm the first person. No, hang on. I'm the one that walks around calling the British Boxing Board a no control. I'm the one that went after them for their appalling performances over Jack Catterall, their appalling performances over Bradley Skeets. I've had as much to say about other people as I have about you. So you need to get over your victims complex about everyone centres on you. You operate as a gold chip promoter, wonderful, £60 million turnover, £12 million profit, lovely dividends. You're a big boy, right? No one's got a conspiracy theory against you, mate. What they're trying to do is one of the biggest events in boxing is make people accountable. Because I think you're accountable. I think you should be sanctioned by the British Boxing Board of Control because I think you and Cali, on the basis of the fact that you try to get a fight on.
Under the basis.
You try to get this fight on.
No, under the basis, Simon, that the British Boxing Board of Control were made aware of the test results on the same day that we were.
Correct.
And ultimately were given their position of what they have to do, which is decide whether they sanction a fight or not.
Simon has touched on something there already. Now, you have admitted that after the drug test failure was revealed and we were all on it. We were on it. We were right across it in here. the fight's going to get scrubbed. He's not going to go in Conor Benn against Chris Eubank Jr. You said earlier, you came out and you made a mistake by saying we were considering all our options. You didn't shut it down then, Eddie.
Yeah, I shut it down.
And when you said considering all your options, one of your options was hoping that the fight would still go ahead, right?
Only if we chose to go down that route, of which we decided not to. Ultimately, this fight could have happened. Could have happened. I made the decision for it not to happen. Now, Simon can say, it's because my dad told me so. Absolute rubbish. I sat there, I thought about it, I let the ego calm down, the madness calm down. And, you know, when you talk about the money side, yeah, the 5 weeks that the board took to make the decision cost us £1 million. No problem. Like Simon says, we're big boys. I wish they would have made the decision straight away. And by the way, it would have been the correct decision. And we would have dealt with it.
Do you think
then.
it's a good contract? Just out of curiosity, let's just go down your route and subscribe to your point of view. Because you asked me, you said to me from the outset, I did precisely what you would have done. You didn't, right? And then
I did.
But then you tell me, hang on,
okay,
you don't know what I would have done.
Go on then,
right?
tell us.
And second of all, in the next breath, you tell me I don't know what I'm doing because this isn't a game I would
Tell
have
us
done.
what you would have done.
You couldn't have done
Tell
what I
us
would have done.
what you would have done.
What I would have done is I'd have had a contract with my fighter in place.
Hindsight.
Do you need the answer?
No. Go on.
Well, best in class doesn't need hindsight, do they?
Go on.
You're the best in class, aren't you?
True.
Right. So then you don't need hindsight, do you?
Let's hear it.
So with that in mind, you've got a situation where you've got fighters. I would have signed them to a contract which basically prohibited them from bringing me into any space or any place that compromises any outcome or damages my business. And a drug test being failed, whether it's a voluntary mandatory scheme, right, would have brought me into that space. And that would have put me in a position where I, as the promoter, had a choice to whether I continued to go on with this fight or find reasons alongside Callie Sauron to get this fight on and push back and create influence and be a powerful person that's licensing fees, help fund the British Boxing Board of Control, and all that needs to be changed as well. And legislation needs to be put in place so they've got some teeth with you guys. And that's what I would have done. So that's different to what you've done, right?
Okay. Now, the reality of the situation, not, you didn't like the word hindsight, is that our contracts with the fighters are dependent on sanction from the British Boxing Board of Control. I'm not saying that your idea of what maybe should be in a contract following this event is not correct. I'm just telling you, so you can acknowledge my position, that everything regarding the sanction of a fight or of a fighter
is dependent
based
on
British.
sanction.
And that's truth. I can't, so...
Bad contract, isn't it?
Not necessarily, but maybe
But
looking back on
it's
this...
got you in a stuck, isn't it?
Listen,
It's
what
cost
it is.
you half a bar, isn't it?
It's more.
£1 million.
Yeah, about that. It's fine.
What did it cost you altogether, Eddie? How much did it cost
£1 million quid.
$1 million?
Yeah, about that. I mean, but it's...
Mr. T in Kent says he's a big fight fan.
Actually, not
Eddie, this is a load of rubbish. Anyone with any sense would have pulled a contract for immediately bringing the fight game into
this is one thing that you know inside out, right? Contractually, completely impossible for me. If you acknowledge of what I've just said...
If I acknowledge that, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, I'm happy to share that.
And that's a fair comment.
Okay. Contractually, legally, I have no position at all other than let the board make their decision. Do you acknowledge that?
I do. But ask the question, because the answer I can't get from you or anyone else. Why would the board want to put themselves in this awful invidious position
I think
to fanny about? Well, it's not a difficult decision, is it?
It is because
they regularly sanction people. They get people in front of them for doping.
Finish your question.
Sorry, go on.
So why would, in your view, besides the difficulty of the decision, and that's what they're paid to do, and that's Robert Smith's job, and that's the board's responsibility, why would the board take from the 23rd of August, which is when the first adverts come in, all right, on the back of the voluntary mandatory testing regime. Wait, the second one goes out on the 30th. You do a UCAT test in the middle of it, which gives you a negative, which you like.
Four UCAT
it suits your argument, right? But you've still got two failed ones, and that could be cycles. Yeah. We all know that, right? So we get onto the 23rd of September. There's another one, right? Why would the board put... Cause you know these people. You are fund them. Why would... these people be in such an invidious situation for 7 weeks they can't make a decision? I think it's because they were put under immense pressure.
No.
I think there was cease and desist put upon them.
No,
and I think they should have had more teeth, is what I think.
I think they also had the issue of precedence around the VADA testing. And you're not acknowledging that, but they have, through that whole process, confirmed several times, and actually in the Dillian White situation, that they do not acknowledge VADA testing. Simon,
but that's not true, Eddie.
No, it is true.
They acknowledge VADA testing in the advent of an adverse analytical finding.
Want me to show you...
Please do.
Where I will.
Please do,
I will. Where they confirm, in instance, that fight, they do not acknowledge...
When was this?
The Billy Joe Saunders
What,
incident.
2 years ago?
Yeah, but...
okay.
So they precedent.
Eddie,
but they haven't changed since then.
The WBC...
Okay.
Their rules have not changed.
Well, that would be clear, won't it?
Simon,
That'll be clear.
On this, the WBC have said, this could have been caused by a highly elevated consumption of eggs. Right? You go with that.
You know I don't go with that. You've heard me talk, and Conor Benn doesn't go with that. There are issues.
Well,
and by the
Conor
way,
claims
What do you
he
think
has-
to that? What do you think to that?
What?
Did you expect the WBC to be a witness for the defence?
I expected.
Because that's what they were, weren't they?
No,
a witness for the
ultimately,
defence.
again, I go through this. I wasn't on one call, 1 second.
Have you read the 270-page report?
No, I've read a number of the key points. Right. Which.
What do you think to it?
I think is very concerning. What I've read.
What? About the accredited laboratory that's a WADA attested one
about
that's failed its
about a
obligations?
number of things. Some things that were said in the Piers Morgan interview. There's a lot of things that happened.
Where's the B samples, Eddie?
The B samples? What do you mean? Where's the B samples?
Where's the B samples for the 23rd of July test?
They've been tested.
Have they?
Yes.
We've never seen the results, have we?
You have, because you heard about the problems with the accreditation, as you just said then. You talked. If you
that's
listened to the Piers Morgan,
that's in the 270-page report.
No, the Piers
No one's
Morgan
talked
interview
about the
was
B
pretty
samples,
clear.
have they?
Yes, they have.
Nobody's talked about
Yes,
it.
they have.
You said, hang on, you said the other day the reasons why they didn't have the B samples was because there was the outcomes on the 23rd of September. You were asked in an interview, where's the B samples? And you said, they've only just got the results from 2 weeks ago. They haven't got the B samples yet. That's what you said. That's your own words.
No, I mean,
that's your own words.
No.
Secondly, you can get B samples tested within 24 hours, and you know it.
No.
And the tests from the 23rd of July have had 8 weeks for the B samples.
You have to send a representative to have that test, and there's all issues around that, which Conor Benn talked about in the interview with him. I'm not here to defend Conor Benn's 270-page document. What I will tell you about the WBC findings are they asked him to provide all his dietary requirements, exactly what he consumed in relation to the trace elements that were found in the test and the tests around that were clear by various other bodies, including VADA and UCAD. They came up with a reason.
But you know Conor's biggest problem. You know what it is, don't you? It's strict liability, isn't it? That's his biggest problem, right? His biggest problem is it doesn't matter how you got in your system, you've got to account for it. And if you can't account for it, then your next best alternative is to prove no intent, right? Because the standard straight out of the gate UCAD position and British Boxing Board position is you've got something in your system, strict liability, which is different from WBC nonsense, which is irrelevant. They've got no jurisdiction. He's got a 4-year ban coming down the pike. The best thing you can do is appeal that and maybe get 2.
No, you need to prove of a contamination.
Strict liability.
No. There's been many other incidents where fighters haven't been banned by proving a contamination or a failing in the process.
And there's been many when it hasn't happened.
Absolutely.
Many.
I
Conor,
acknowledge that.
Conor, as you say, Eddie,
a
still
fighter that you
claims
mentioned earlier, in exactly the same position, you talk about strict liability, found and proven by UCAD of contamination in a test.
You're talking about Dillian?
Yes.
Right. But Eddie,
guys,
that was a VADA test that did that.
What you're both unaware of,
he failed a UCAD test.
we haven't scrubbed the ad
But they're the
breaks.
same thing, aren't
Simon,
they?
we haven't scrubbed the ad breaks. We're going to take one, then we'll come back to that Piers Morgan interview. Eddie Hearn in live with Simon and myself. There's Paul, one of many. Jim, only one way to sort this. Simon and Eddie fight each other for charity. 100 quid pay-per-view for that. Massive
what
money.
Are we, 12?
What are we, 12?
What am I,
No,
12?
but it might be the only one I could win.
You're supposed to be a blue chip promoter. You can't run around slapping people because
No,
you
I
don't
can
like
for
what
charity.
they say.
Eddie Hearn
I can for charity.
Well, I went up to a charity event on a weekend. I didn't start slapping people.
What
but
I'm
it'd be
going to
fun.
do,
Imagine.
guys, I'm going to jump into the squabbling here because Eddie,
catch
am I
weight.
right?
Would be. What
The
you
catch
won?
rate,
Simon,
14 and a half.
Oh,
am I
good.
right?
No, good.
You're going to stay
Are you
until
bigger?
12:30.
17.
You're going to stay
Right?
until 12:30.
Whatever you want to use me and abuse me for, Jim, I'm here.
No, but you're giving
we're
us
not-
figures, mate, aren't you?
We're
True
not
or
gonna
not?
No, not
abuse you.
really.
Oh, come on.
Not really.
Mate.
Well, we're
You
going to
might-
do the other
listen.
side of 12 noon. We're going to talk about
Keeping you in a
AJ.
job.
You need to go look at your contract.
Keeping you in a job.
Can I get
Keeping you
a
in a
word
job.
in? The other side of 12 noon, we're going to talk about AJ, your fighter, fighting Franklin. Where is AJ now? We're also going to talk about Fury Usyk. Because
Well,
I know
yeah,
you've got a few
actually,
things
yeah.
you want to say on that.
Remarkably, I agree with
wanna
Mr.
round
Jordan
this
on
up.
that.
Thank you very much. We find
Simon,
them
I
called.
want to round off this Conor Benn thing. VADA, WADA, who did this, who did what? Conor Benn, without you knowing until the day of the interview, you've conceded. Did an interview with Piers Morgan on Talk TV. And he said, look, he said he's got a dossier that completely proves his innocence. So then Piers Morgan moved in and said, all right, why not release the dossier?
I still don't think that proves my innocence at all. I've just been cleared by the organisation the test in which I failed.
I don't understand why you wouldn't want to counter that agenda by making public this dossier.
Because I don't know what it is they got in for me. I don't know what vendetta it is.
Yeah,
they
but it's
hold.
like saying you're accused of killing someone.
Okay,
You
but
have
I've been proven innocent by the authorities that run that test.
I wouldn't say you've been proven innocent. They just couldn't
Well, they've
produce...
just given me the clear. They've said you're...
They said there was no conclusive evidence. Just to be clear exactly what they said, right? It's not an absolutely unequivocal, you're definitely innocent.
Now, Piers Morgan had a point, Eddie, did he not? You've got this dossier that proves your innocence. Let's have a look at it.
I agree. I think, to be honest with you, I think there's a lot that happened around disciplinary charges, not in relation to the testing.
Yeah, but hang on, Eddie. You're his promoter. Why doesn't Conor produce this dossier?
Because at the moment he's in a legal position with the British Boxing Board of Control. I agree with you and I agree with Simon, and it's very important to me, regardless of what you think, that Conor Benn fights in this country again. The only way that's going to happen is if ego is dropped from both sides and Conor is...
But Eddie, you've got a situation, mate, where you've got a fighter at this moment in time that's failed drugs test, right? And all I hear from you is how you're going to get him fighting again.
Yeah.
How he must get out fighting. Surely to Christ, he must get himself cleared and in a position.
Okay.
But and what you're doing is you're diminishing the